Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. Victor's bike's done. He's the winner of the Boss Audio contest. We got it all wired up. So we're going to do this video in two parts. This is the first part of the video. This is going to show you the install, just using the Boss Audio parts, plug and play, front speakers, grill replacement, rear speakers, cutting kit, harnesses, everything the way Boss Audio tells you to do it. And then in the next video, we're going to show you how to add a DSP to the Boss Audio kit so you can dial it in and get the most sound possible out of it. But this is the regular kit installed, ready to go. Check it out. So this is the bike that won the Boss Audio contest. So we're going to be doing the fairing kit, DSP, 400.4 amp, and the lid kit. This bike is in excellent condition. I look forward to tackling this install, and then we're going to show you every step of the process. Factory radio. Now we have a blank canvas to start with, nice and fresh. All right, you need a T25 to remove these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's when it's going to hold down the new amplifier mounting plate. There's a plate installed. It's countersunk into the plate so it sits nice and flat once you install the amplifier. Amplifier slides in the plate nice and easy. And then you have the 2 mounting screws there and the 2 on that side. So it's going to screw in right there with the included screws once you line it up. Perfect factory fit. We have the speaker pods removed to replace the grills. But I just wanted to show you where the mounting screws are for the speaker pods because they are a real pain in the ass in the street glide. So you have one there, one there. These 3 are very difficult to get. You need an 11 millimeter to get up in here. This top one is really difficult. This is the easiest one to get. That one's the second easiest. This one's a real pain in the butt. Then it mounts here, here, there's the 5 on the side, cigarette lighter hole. Then you have 1, 2, 3 to hold the pot on, and 4. Put that in place, Pee-wee. That's how the pod lines up. These bolts for the amp tray go into the side of the pod right there. But the ones down here are really, really hard to get to. We'll show you how to get to them as we reassemble it. So this is the included power harness. We're going to run that. Okay, this part of the install we're going to do a little bit differently because we're adding a DSP. But normally, this is rear in, and this is rear out. So this plugs into the input side of the amp, which is here. Output side of the amp is here. So this part would go on this side, and that part we're still going to use. The input would go on this side. Now this is only for the rear speakers. That's why it's green and purple. So rear speakers. And then it's high input, not low input, because we're not using RCAs yet. So that's how the harness looks mounted. And then you can go to the rear. So in the rear, if your bike has rear speakers, this would plug into the speaker pod. And that's just sending signal back to the front. And this would plug into your 6x9s or pod speakers. So now I'm actually going to take this harness to another bike and show you. Because we're actually not using this harness on this bike, but I'd like to show you how it would get hooked up if we were using it. Okay, so this is the factory rear speaker pods. In 90% of the installs, you won't need this part, but if your bike has rear speaker pods and you want it to feed rear speaker input to the amplifier and front speaker input, spade connector goes into the white, slide the sleeve over, larger spade connector goes into the black, and now you would route the harness through the back of the pod under the seat, so this harness would run right along this factory harness under the seat and to the front. So what that's doing is this is taking signal and sending it up to the amplifier, then the amplifier is looping the signal back and sending it back through these wires, and these wires would get hooked onto the aftermarket speaker like this, and then the install would be complete. Then the speaker would go back in the pod. So the purple or the green would plug into the factory harness, and then the aftermarket harness would come back and plug directly into the speaker. Since we're adding a DSP, we won't be using this harness, and we're going to catch signal directly from the radio. I just wanted to show you how to do it with the included harness that comes with the kit. So here's the factory lids, no speakers, no harnesses. We're about to lay down the template and cut them. But first we're gonna run the wiring. Okay, so here's the complete Boss kit. So we're gonna start with the wiring harness. We'll go back to the template in a second. So the wiring harness comes in two parts. This is the long part that goes to the front with the gaskets after you drill the hole. And this is the part that actually hooks up to the speaker. So we're gonna leave this in the box. We're gonna start with this part of the harness, and we're gonna work backwards. We're gonna run it from the front of the bike to the back. Unwrap that for me, Pee-wee. So this plugs in to the output side right here on the amplifier. And it's gonna go here on the very first port because it's rears. It's set up for this amplifier, so it's going to plug directly in right there. That's the rears. Now Pee-wee's going to snake it down through the backbone, behind the battery, and it's going to split left and right to go to the saddlebags. We'll show you that part when we get to it. We have the power wire on this side, so we're going to go ahead and run the speaker wire on this side. When done properly, the wire should end up right here.
Could use up to a 3/8 bit, but a 5/16 bit fits perfectly and keeps it clean through the process. And always drill to the inside of the template. If it's open. By having it from hole to hole, you can take out the saw at any time, check your line, regroup, and start in another hole. through the template to always stay on the inside edge, so you'll have room afterwards to sand down rather than cutting too wide for the grill to go on. Now at the top of the lid, the seam is right at the template, and now that he stayed on the inside, he has this extra lip that if needed can be sanded down or grinded down to fit the grill in. Now you see, as you look at your template, your holes are drilled to the inside. So now as you take that inside line, you're able to keep a thin trim all the way around. While the lid is secured, the template's in, and always tape to cover the paint. Okay, after the whole line and everything is sanded down and clean, start removing your mask. Take the mask off, everything should be clean. Take your grill, position it over the cut, make sure it sits in nicely. Take the adapter plate, sit it right in. The way they meet. And line up the holes, and you start them in, go around all the holes. Just mounting everything, you turn it over. You should have a clean fit all the way around with no gaps.
So there you see the 4 screws securing the lid and the bottom backing plate. So now these are the screws that come with the speakers. They're just a little bit too short in our opinion, especially after you add the basket on the back. The basket is on the back of the speaker for a reason. After riding a bike for a while, the magnet gets hot. So there's a chance where it might damage your possessions inside the saddlebag. So a lot of times we don't install this, but since Boss sent it with the kit, we're gonna install it in the kit to show you the way it's properly supposed to be done. But this makes the screws a little bit too short. So instead of using those, we're gonna use these. Put one of the black ones next to the silver one. So it's a little bit thicker and it's a little bit longer. The reason I like using the silver screws is these speakers are kind of heavy and it adds weight to the lid. So with the saddlebag bouncing around, these tend to strip out. These don't.
These two. Maybe that one.
Now with the speaker installed, you take the harness provided and connect the spade connectors properly. And then route your wires to be clean when the bag is shut. And that'll be a quick disconnect. So with the supplied harness for the quick connect, comes with a grommet. Use a 3/4 step bit. Like this, 3/4. Fits it perfectly. You pull the grommet through and it'll be sealed on the other side for a watertight finish.
Since we're using high level from the factory radio, you're going to use this set of connectors that plugs in here. You have to be careful because there's two different inputs. Low would be RCA, high would be speaker level. So since we're using a factory radio, it's going to be high and it's front. So it'd get plugged into the very first port there. And then we have our brake side, clutch side wires. So that plugs in there. That plugs in here. Obviously, we're going to test tape the harness so it's all blacked out and then rewrap it so it's all manageable. But those get plugged in there. That takes care of the input side. Now we're going to do the output side. Where's the output harness? You can tell the difference between the input and the output harness because the input harness is very thin. The output harness is very thick. So this is the output harness and this goes to the fronts. We already plugged in the rears. So obviously the only port left over would be fronts and it's right here. So that's fronts, that's rears. Looking for the other half of our pod wire, which is still attached to the pod, which is right here. And that plugs in. We go to the other side. Now, we're just plugging this in very quickly. Obviously, you have to dress the cables up, route them properly, and wire tie them. But we want to do an audio test first to make sure everything's working. Then we're going to go back and clean it all up. True plug and play. So the radio outputs through the factory speaker plugs. The speaker plugs plug in here. Then you disconnect them from the pod, you plug them in here, and that sends signal to the input of the amplifier. Then the output of the amplifier plugs into the opposite side of the speaker plug. Very simple, 100% truly plug and play. Now we're going to plug in the power, ground, and remote wires. Okay, we have everything installed and working. So now we're just going to dress it up to make it nice and neat and test tape all this, wire tie it in place. It makes me crazy when in a fairing you see all different color wires. Okay, so this is the equipment that was installed. Boss BHD 3F, Boss BHD 14. So that's a 6x9 kit. It comes with the cutting kit, the 6x9s, and the wiring that goes up to the front. And this is the plug and play. Comes with the two 6.5s, the grills, amp mounting bracket, and the amplifier. There it is installed. So front input, high input directly from the Harley GTS radio. Power, ground. Then the wires are neatly test taped and it's plug and play using the speaker pod connections. Came with the Boss Audio replacement grills. Here's the cutting kit. There's the 6x9. In the instruction, it says to drill the holes up here. We don't like it that way. We like the hole on the bottom. And then we run the wiring under the tether, so it's nice and neat this way. You could run it along the top if you like. We just don't like doing it that way. We understand that boss tells you to do it that way to keep it away from the drive belt. But if you look down there, if you put it in the right spot, nice and neat.